Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode ever of Two Player Mode, your podcast with the modcast of the most cast for all things video game related. I'm your host, Danny, and along with
Gen Z guy, Marco.
He has to say Gen Z guy, doesn't he?
I love
He
Gen Z
did
guy
that
so
on his
much.
other thing, didn't he? Well, you get it. It's Marco. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hopefully sharing and liking this podcast, audio only. We're part of the Pop Cult X family, so if you're not aware of what that is, go check it out, popcultx.com. Look for our show, Two Player Mode. You'll find us there. But yeah, so this is just our intro, so we just wanted to say hi and let you guys get to know us a little bit better, so you keep coming back to hear our thoughts on video games. So with that being said, Gen Z guy, or I'll call you Marco.
Man, just call me Marco. I mean,
Whatever.
Gen Z guy is my thing.
I'll call you something.
It's my weird thing. I'm weird.
I'll call you something here and something else later on.
When you remember.
Anyways, tell us a little bit about what your favorite, I guess two questions. A, why did you feel like you wanted to do this podcast about video games? And B, what is your favorite all-time video game?
All right, I'll answer that in order, make it simple. Honestly, I want to get on the podcast just because it's something I've wanted to do for a while. It's something I really enjoy, is sharing my thoughts and my views on video games and just pretty much everything that has to do with like the entertainment world. I've enjoyed watching podcasts for a long time. And
You mean listening?
Well, some podcasts have, some visual aspects.
Oh, like Pop Cult X.
Yeah, like Pop
There you
Cult
go.
X. But truly, I just enjoy the fact that we all get together and share our thoughts. And it's a fun way to do so. And to answer the second question, what's my favorite video game? Honestly, my favorite all-time video game has to be the God of War series. I mean, as surprising as it is, it's come a long way, and the God of War series has really found its footing, so to speak, with the new Valhalla DLC that came out.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, I second what you said about why we're doing this podcast. I know there are a lot of video game related podcasts out there, and which is great because it gives a lot of opportunities for different people to share their viewpoints on gaming and the state of gaming and whatnot. I think with what makes this show a little bit different is going to be that it's not just one person's take on it. It's going to be two people's take, and it could be opposing views on a game. It could be synergistic views. And also we plan on having a bunch of guest interviews with like game script writers or authors of books on games or game developers, game publishers. So we look forward to sharing that with everyone. I think my favorite game, since you didn't ask, I'll just tell you, is a game. It's not really a game I think that you'd think it would be. It's the MLB series on PlayStation. Ever since I can remember way back in the day. If I've been a baseball fan, and they've really stepped up their road to the show type of game where you basically get to create a player and advance him. It's their role-playing game version of baseball, where you advance him through the levels of the minor leagues, to the major leagues, to hopefully Hall of Fame status. That's just a game I've always, every year, looked forward to playing. And now with this season 2024 and the previous season 2023, they released what they call their story mode. And with that, they introduced a lot of the the players from the Negro Leagues, which I thought was a fascinating way to involve and become more diverse, because there are so many great stories that have yet to be told. And I think that was one great way of including them. They've also, for 2024, allowed now for players to choose to be a female baseball player, which I think is another step towards more inclusivity, which I think is just great for not only baseball, but for gaming everywhere. Because gaming, as we know it, unfortunately, is heavily male-dominated. But there are a lot more female gamers out there than I think a lot of the bros, like to admit.
I mean, unfortunately, all the female gamers, they're like the guy gamers. They stay hidden at home, and they rarely come out. So it's really hard for us to get a statistic out there on, all the female gamers.
And we'll have to look that up for stats, but I think it's more than I think people will realize. and which is great. I mean, I'm all for it. I have 3 sisters. You have 3 sisters. So we know all about, having that way to include them in video games.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a larger amount of female streamers. I see the female streaming line is way higher than the male streaming line. Usually it's just guys showing their video game overall statistics as opposed to like actual gameplay. And I see a lot of female streamers showing actual gameplay and just having a lot more fun with it.
So you're saying like with Twitch or Kick, those type of streaming when they're okay. I haven't really dived into that much. Fun fact though, for 2-player mode, we will be having a Twitch channel. So eventually, once I get it all set up, you'll be able to follow us along on Twitch as we stream some of the most recent games that we're playing. So with that being said, yeah, that's my favorite game. What game though, Marco, would you say is the first game that you ever remember playing?
Oof, the first ever game I ever played was the Pokemon Red and Green on the old Game Boys.
Wow.
It was a gift from my dad, and I was like toddler age back then. But I mean, that was like the first game I ever played and beat on my own without help.
That's what I was going to ask you next question. What's the first game you ever beat? But there you go.
Yeah, Pokemon. That's where I started. That's where I grew up was Pokemon and old Game Boys, the Nintendo ES, and all the GameCubes.
Well, I guess this will show our age difference here. My first game that I remember ever playing and beating, well, I don't even know if I ever beat it, but it could be so old. It's my old Commodore 64 computer. For all us old guys out there, you know what that is. There was a game called Bruce Lee, and it was like a little pixel of a character that was supposedly Bruce Lee, and you went through a bunch of different levels, and it was so much fun. And I played that for hours with my little Atari-looking joystick plugged into my Commodore 64. But that was the first game that I really, really remember playing. I think I did have a Intellivision and an Atari 2600, I want to say, and then TurboGrafx, and then Nintendo, of course, and Sega Genesis. And then I really veered towards Sega with their Dreamcast, and I was hoping, but then, of course, they shut down, and then it was all about Sony and PlayStation for me. What about your console lineage? What do you think you went from? Did you play Xbox at all? Did you play PlayStation? What did you do?
Just about every console I can get my hands on, up from the Sega Genesis all the way down to the old original Game Boys that my dad had grown up with, that he had passed on to me. Pretty much any console. I've gone through almost every version of Xbox just because I could.
Wow.
I am kind of stuck on the PlayStation side. I have a PlayStation 5 now, which shows you just kind of how far I've gone into the PlayStation verse. Just really everything that there is to play, I've played just because, I have to try at least once.
True. So what game are you currently focused on right now?
Right now, I have my mind focused on the Helldivers game that just came out, the Helldivers 2. I've been trying to balance it out with Fortnite and Call of Duty, but Helldivers has really taken my main focus.
Yeah, I agree. I was playing Baldur's Gate 3, and that's what my game was, and I was like advancing my characters, doing more of a completionist type of playthrough as opposed to just getting through it as fast as I could for that. But then Helldivers 2 came out, and I forgot about Baldur's Gate. It's one of those things, where you're playing the game so long, you're into it, then you stop playing it for a while, and you're like, where was I at? What do I have to do? And so maybe I'll get back to it or whatnot. But Helldivers 2 is a lot of fun. And stay tuned for a future episode because we will be getting a deep dive into Helldivers 2 and what get it? Deep dive. Yes, I laugh at my own jokes. You'll see that on the show repeatedly, but or hear that. But that's where, we'll stay tuned for a future episode for Helldivers 2. So check back frequently. Let's see, what else should we say about what we'll be talking about on this show?
Honestly, it's really up to the community. I mean, we're also getting the community involved in what we're going to be talking about in the future.
That's a very good point. Yeah, if you're listening to this or stumble across us somehow, somewhere, and you have a take on a game or you have an idea for a game that you'd like us to review or give our thoughts on, feel free to reach out to us on any of the socials and we'll be happy to include those in a future episode.
Yeah, definitely reach out to me on the social part too, because I have, no life aside from video games.
So yeah, if for future gaming, if you ever want to be included in our journeys, I guess, find us, of course, on Twitch once we get that started up at 2-Player Mode Podcast. Also, Marco, I think you're on PlayStation Community, and what's your handle on there if people want to find you?
It's Gohan Morningstar. I will accept anybody that wants to join on. I run a bunch of Helldivers and a bunch of Call of Duty games, so if you guys want to add me and run some missions with me, I'm definitely down for that.
Cool, and mine is the same as my handle everywhere. It's Dorko_Danny. Go find it, and we'll play some games. But I think that's what we are all about here. Like I said, share our channel with your friends. Be sure to subscribe, like, all that fun stuff that people always tell you to do at the end of a podcast. That way we can, invest more into it. Make sure you're listening. So thanks again. Stay tuned for future episodes. Saving our progress and closing a chapter on today's adventure. Remember, every end screen is just the start of a new playthrough.
Catch you on the next level of 2-Player Mode.